So Jesus had been raised by Mary and Joseph to be a very dedicated and devout follower of Jewish tradition and the rules of the temple. But when he came to the temple, he saw that it had been really turned into something very unholy. It was just like he mentioned in the video, like a flea market or like a Rogers sale, if you guys have ever been there, where people are just peddling their goods and selling things, and that was never what it was meant to be. They did bring in animals to the temple for sacrifice, which was part of their tradition, but it had become something much more than that. So it is in this moment that we are reminded of Jesus's humanity. Obviously, he is both man and God, and we've all been there where we've seen something that we don't think is right, and it makes us angry. So Jesus, in his anger, he made sure to let these vendors know that what they were doing was desecrating or making unclean the temple of God. So he threw things, and he yelled, and he made sure that they understood what they were doing, and he cast them out of there. So in actuality, it was the priests of the temple whose job it was to make sure that bad things like this weren't happening. It should have been them to protect God's house from impropriety and bad things like this. But unfortunately, as we find really throughout the rest of Jesus's life, the leaders in the church were not always perfect. That they were flawed. That they could be selfish, and that's not unlike it is today. I mean, there's no priest or nun or bishop or cardinal or pope that is perfect. Just like we aren't perfect. So again, that's something that we recognize. What is perfect and what we can always look to is that God's love for us is perfect, that God himself is perfect. So the failings of people in the church should never dissuade you from your faith. So just keep that in mind again, that what we believe in is not the people of the church, but is God. And just like God's faith in us never wavers, our faith in him should never be shaken or waver. So again, just something to keep in mind. This will be a reading in church tomorrow. So make sure you listen up, and hopefully you've gotten a little bit more insight since you've seen the video and we've discussed it a little bit. So just try to participate and listen the best that you can. Something else to remind you of too, since we're in the Lenten season, is your rice bowls. We talked about these a few weeks ago. If you haven't picked one up yet, I don't think it's too late. I'm pretty sure they've still got them sitting there, but it's a great way to take some loose change or maybe some allowance money that you have around the house, and that you can give this. And again, that's sort of part of Lent is alms giving, and you can put money in the basket too. So just remember, keep all that in mind during Lent. Also, saying the Rosary. If you guys can say the Rosary as a family, I think that would be wonderful, especially during Lent. And then next week we'll talk about Stations of the Cross. So we'll go into that a little bit more next week and discuss that. So as we come to the end of the chapter here, there's a couple words I would like you to remember. Consecrated life. And remember that all those who dedicate their lives, like Sister Lori or like Father Fedor, they enter into what is called a consecrated life. Now, to consecrate means to set aside for a holy purpose. So they are setting their lives aside and maybe some of their own maybe personal goals or things that they wanted to have in their lives. They set that aside for a holy purpose. So that's why a lot of them live very simple lives. So there are priests that take a vow of poverty, which means that they literally own nothing in their lives. They don't even own the clothes that they wear. Those clothes are basically lent to them by the church. Some of these men and women live in monasteries, in convents, and in rectories. So they don't even have a home of their own. They live a communal life with other members of the church, maybe other priests or nuns. So that's a sacrifice as well. But they make a promise to follow the leaders of the church, so the popes and bishops and the cardinals. And so we remember that all those who live the consecrated life serve our church, whether it be nuns, priests, bishops, cardinals, or even the Pope. So that's what we learned. From them, and hopefully, again, we can live and we can learn from their example. We can learn from their words, because part of serving God's people is to teach and to share and to help us with our faith formation and becoming stronger in our own faith. So I think we learned some good lessons today. All right, so that brings us to the end of the chapter and to the end of Unit 4. So the last thing I'd like you guys to do today is to go to page 151 and just do the unit review. There's just a few short questions, but it might remind you of some of what we've learned over these last few chapters here. I think there's 3 questions at the top, and then there's a matching column at the bottom. And if your parents could take a picture of that and send it to me, I would certainly appreciate it. So again, thank you so much this week. I hope your Lent is coming along well. I hope your Lenten sacrifices are going well, and that everybody's happy and healthy. So thank you for learning today, because we know that to know God is to love God. So God bless and have a great week.